Mom texted, "Can't visit your son in the hospital. Money's tight." I said, "I understand." Then I saw their restaurant photos. All of them were there. New toys for my sister's kids, drinks all night. My son asked, "They didn't come." I shut down everything. Hey, Reddit. My mom said she couldn't afford to visit my son in the hospital because money was tight. 11 minutes later, I found social media posts of her at a fancy restaurant dropping $200 on my sister's kids. So I shut down every auto payment I'd been covering for 7 years. By 7:55 a.m. the next morning, my sister was blowing up my phone screaming. Here's the whole story. I'm Nathan, 36 male. And if there's one thing I've learned over the past 7 years, it's this. Being dependable doesn't mean being valued. It just means you're convenient. A human ATM machine that never complains and never runs out. I started paying their bills the year my father died. Mom called me 3 weeks after the funeral, voice shaking, saying the mortgage was due and she didn't know what to do. Dad had always handled the finances, and she was completely lost. I wired her the money that afternoon. $1,500. Didn't even think twice about it. She's my mom. Dad just died. Of course I'd help. Then it was the car payment the next month. Then utilities the month after that. Then my sister Crystal's rent when her husband walked out 6 months later. Then insurance premiums, credit card minimums, streaming services, phone plans. It became a rhythm, a predictable pattern where every month, money left my account in quiet streams flowing toward two people who'd learned to expect it. Mom never asked anymore after that first year. She just sent me bills with, "Can you handle this?" texts. Crystal never thanked. She just forwarded invoices with, "Need this by Friday" messages. I have a son, Liam. He's 9 years old. Loves dinosaurs more than anything else in this world. Plays basketball like his life depends on it. And asks approximately 7,000 questions daily about how everything works. Kid wants to be a paleontologist one week, then an astronaut the next, then back to dinosaurs again. He's the reason I work 2 jobs. The reason I drive a 7-year-old Honda sedan with a cracked windshield and a check engine light that's been on for 6 months. The reason I pack lunches at 6 a.m. instead of buying them. The reason I shop at discount stores and clip coupons and fix things myself instead of calling repair guys. Everything I do is for that kid. Every sacrifice, every extra shift, every time I say no to myself so I can say yes to him. But when I mentioned last month that Liam needed new basketball cleats because his feet grew 2 sizes over the summer, Mom changed the subject within 30 seconds to talk about her garden club's fundraiser. When I sent pictures of his science fair project to the family group chat, Kid built this incredible volcano that actually erupted with real lava-looking stuff. Crystal left me on red for 3 days. They never asked about his grades. Never remembered his birthday unless I reminded them the day before. Never came to his basketball games even though they were on Saturday mornings, and Mom lived 20 minutes away. But they remembered my credit card number. That information was burned into their brains like it was tattooed there. Crystal has 3 kids, Brandon who's 7, Olivia who's 5, and Sophie who just turned 3. Mom calls them her treasures, her pride and joy, the lights of her life. She babysits them twice a week without fail, buys them clothes and toys constantly, takes them for ice cream and to the movies and on little day trips, posts pictures online with captions like, "Best grandkids ever, my whole world," and "So blessed to have these angels in my life," and "Grandma's favorite people." Liam sees those posts. I know he does because I've caught him scrolling past them on my phone when he borrows it to look up dinosaur facts. He never says anything about it. Never asks why Grandma calls his cousins her whole world but barely acknowledges his existence. But I see the way his face changes. The way something dims behind his eyes for just a second before he hands my phone back and goes to play with his dinosaur collection. I told myself for years that it didn't matter. Family is family, right? You help when you can. Blood is thicker than water. You don't keep score. All those cliches people use to justify staying in toxic relationships. But I was lying to myself because I absolutely kept score. Every wire transfer had a mental note attached to it. Every declined dinner invitation because I was working overtime to cover someone else's emergency got tallied up in my head. Every time Mom gushed about Crystal's kids while barely remembering Liam's name got added to the list. I kept score in ways I'm not proud of, but couldn't seem to stop. 3 months ago, I sat at Mom's dining table watching her show me pictures from Olivia's 5th birthday party. Big event at one of those bounce house places with the obstacle courses and slides. 24 kids, pizza for everyone, a custom cake with fondant decorations, party favors in little bags, the whole production. Cost me $300, Mom said proudly. But you should have seen her face. Worth every penny. That same week, literally 4 days later, she texted asking me to cover her electric bill because money was really tight that month and she was short about 120 bucks. I just opened my banking app, found her electric company and my saved payees, and sent the payment. Didn't say a word. Didn't point out the math. Just did what I always did. That's who I was. The silent provider. The emergency fund they withdrew from without asking, without acknowledging, without appreciating. The second choice. The backup plan. The safety net they never had to think about because it was always there. Liam asked me once why Grandma never visited our house. We'd driven to her place dozens of times for family dinners and holidays, but she'd been to our apartment maybe 3 times in 9 years. I told him she was busy, that grown-ups had a lot of responsibilities, and sometimes it was hard to find time. He nodded, but I could tell he didn't believe me. Kid's smart, probably smarter than I give him credit for. And honestly, I didn't believe me either. The pattern had been there since childhood, long before Dad died, and I became the family bank. Crystal was always the favorite. Always. The pretty one, Mom used to say when we were kids. The one who needs extra help. The sensitive one. I was the responsible one. The one who didn't need anything. The one who could handle himself. At 17, I'd saved $2,000 for a used car. Worked my tail off all summer. Mowed lawns in 100-degree heat. Stocked shelves at the grocery store on weekends. Did odd jobs for neighbors. Every dollar went into a savings account with that car's name on it. 2 days before I planned to buy it, Mom sat me down in the kitchen with this serious expression. Crystal needed money for prom. The whole package, dress from that expensive boutique she'd been eyeing, professional hair and makeup, shoes, accessories, the works. Total cost, $1,500. Could you help out just this once? Mom asked, already knowing the answer because I'd never said no to her in my life. It's so important to her. This is a memory she'll have forever. I gave her $1,500 from my car fund. Crystal went to prom looking like a princess in the photos. Absolutely stunning. Mom posted 100 pictures on social media with captions about her beautiful daughter and this magical night. I kept riding the bus for another year. Crystal never said thank you. Not once. Not the night of prom. Not the day after. Not ever. It was like the money had just appeared from nowhere. Like some prom fairy had granted her wish. That was 20 years ago, but the script hadn't changed one bit. Just the amounts got bigger, the needs more frequent, the gratitude more absent. The phone call came at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Liam's school calling to say he'd collapsed during basketball practice. Stomach pain, sharp and sudden, kid was crying and they'd already called an ambulance. My heart stopped, just completely stopped beating for a second, before kicking into overdrive. I was at work when I got the call. My second job doing inventory at a warehouse across town. Boss let me leave immediately, didn't even clock out. Just ran to my car and drove like a maniac to the hospital. By the time I got to the ER, they were already prepping Liam for emergency surgery. Appendicitis. His appendix was inflamed and on the verge of rupturing, and they needed to operate now. I sat in that waiting room with those awful fluorescent lights buzzing overhead and my hands shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. Other people in the waiting room with their own emergencies, their own fears, but all I could think about was my 9-year-old son on an operating table. The surgeon came out before the procedure to explain what they were doing. Nice guy, probably mid-40s, tried to be reassuring. Said it was routine. They did dozens of these a year. Liam would be fine. But routine doesn't mean easy when it's your kid. Routine doesn't stop your brain from running through every worst-case scenario. Routine doesn't make the waiting any less terrible. I texted Mom at 7:15 p.m. Liam's in surgery, emergency appendectomy. They say he'll be okay, but I'm scared. Can you come? I could really use the support. 3 dots appeared at the bottom of the screen. Disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared. Finally, after what felt like an hour but was probably 2 minutes, her response came through. Oh, honey, we'd love to be there, but money's really tight right now. Gas prices are so high, and Crystal needs help with the kids this week. We'll definitely visit soon once things settle down. Sending prayers and positive thoughts your way. Let us know how it goes. I stared at that message on my phone screen. Read it once. Read it again. Read it a third time, trying to make sense of it. Money's really tight. The hospital was 11 miles from Mom's house. 11 miles. Maybe 15 minutes in traffic. 20 if you hit every red light. Gas for that trip? Maybe $3 round trip in her newish sedan. But money was tight. This is the same woman who'd driven 26 miles each way last month. Twice. To get Sophie's favorite donuts from that specific bakery across town. Because apparently no other donuts would do. I didn't respond, didn't know what to say, just sat there in that uncomfortable waiting room chair with my phone in my lap, watching the clock and waiting for news about my son. Liam came through the surgery fine. Amazing surgeon, amazing team, everything went perfectly. They moved him to a room in the pediatric ward around 9:30 p.m. He was so groggy from the anesthesia. Could barely keep his eyes open, kept trying to talk, but words were all jumbled up. I pulled the chair right up next to his bed and took his hand. How you feeling, buddy? Tired. And my tummy hurts. I know. But they fixed you up. You're going to be okay. Is Grandma here? That question hit me like a punch to the chest. Not tonight, bud. But she sent her love. He nodded slowly, eyes already closing again. Kay, love you, Dad. Love you too. More than anything. He fell asleep, still holding my hand. I stayed in that chair watching him breathe, watching the monitors, watching over him the way I always had and always would. Around 11 p.m., when the nurse came to check his vitals and said I should try to get some rest, I pulled out my phone just to scroll through something mindlessly. That's when I saw it. Crystal had posted to Instagram. Not just one post, but a whole series of stories. Posted at 8:43 p.m., right around when Liam was being wheeled into surgery. The first one was a video. Upscale restaurant. I recognized it immediately as Marcello's, that Italian place downtown, where appetizers start at 18 bucks. The kind of place with cloth napkins and candles on every table, and waiters who introduce themselves by name and recite the specials like poetry. Crystal was panning the camera around the table. Mom sitting there in a nice dress, makeup done, hairstyled. Crystal's 3 kids in their good clothes. Wine glasses catching the candlelight. Appetizer platters arranged like art on the table. Look at this spread! Crystal's voice on the video, loud and excited. Best grandma ever treated us to dinner. Another story, posted 2 minutes later. Mom holding up one of those fancy pink cocktails garnished with fruit and a little umbrella, grinning at the camera. Caption, celebrating family time with my favorite people, so blessed. Another story. Brandon showing off a brand new video game still in the packaging. Grandma bought this for me! Thanks, Grandma! Another. Olivia hugging a doll that was literally bigger than her torso. One of those expensive collector ones from the toy store at the mall. Another. Sophie with a remote control car, racing it across the restaurant floor while other diners smiled indulgently. Another. The bill sitting on the table, partially visible in the frame. I zoomed in, could make out the total at the bottom. $237.82. I sat in that dim hospital room with my son's small hand still in mine, and I watched those videos on a loop. Money's really tight. I watched them again. The laughter, the expensive appetizers, the gifts, the cocktails that cost $12 each. Mom's face glowing with joy as she kissed Sophie's forehead. Crystal's voice bubbling with excitement as she filmed everything. My son was 3 floors below them recovering from emergency surgery, and they were celebrating. I checked the location tag on Crystal's post. Marcello's Italian Kitchen, downtown. I pulled up Google Maps, calculated the distance from the restaurant to the hospital. 6.7 miles. 11 minutes in current traffic. They were 11 minutes away from where my son was fighting through anesthesia and pain. 11 minutes away from where I was sitting alone and terrified waiting to make sure he was okay. 11 minutes. They could have stopped by on their way to dinner. Could have stopped by on their way home. Could have spent 10 minutes, just 10 minutes, telling Liam they loved him and asking how he was feeling. But they didn't even think of it. I looked at Liam. His face was so pale against the white pillowcase. IV line in his little arm, probably the most terrifying thing he'd ever experienced. Surgical tape across his abdomen covering the incisions. Monitors beeping steadily, tracking his heart rate and oxygen levels. They told me money was too tight to drive 11 miles to see their grandson after emergency surgery. But $237 for dinner and toys? That they could manage just fine. I watched Crystal's next story, posted at 10:14 p.m. All of them back at Mom's house now, sprawled out in her living room. Kids playing with their new toys spread across the carpet. Mom refilling her wine glass, laughing at something someone said off camera. Caption, perfect evening with my favorite people. Best night ever. My favorite people. Liam wasn't in that category. I could see that clear as day now. Neither was I. We were the obligation family. The ones who got lip service and empty promises. The ones who existed in text messages and excuses. Her favorite people were the ones she could post about on social media. The ones who made her look like Mother of the Year. The ones who served a purpose in her carefully curated online persona. I screenshot every single story, every image, every video, every caption. saved them all to a folder on my phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were completely steady. I opened my banking app, looked at the list of auto payments and scheduled transfers I'd set up over the years. One by one, added up after another, until they became this massive list of obligations I didn't even think about anymore. Mom's mortgage payment, $1,450 monthly. Mom's car payment, $380 monthly. Mom's utilities bundle, $290 monthly. Mom's car insurance, $180 monthly. Mom's phone plan, $95 monthly. Mom's streaming services, $47 monthly. Crystal's rent, $1,100 monthly. Crystal's car payment, $415 monthly. Crystal's phone plan for her family, $185 monthly. Crystal's car insurance, $220 monthly. 17 different auto payments, some weekly, most monthly, all scheduled to go out between the 1st and 15th. I clicked into my transaction history, scrolled back 12 months, started adding it up. $18,436 in the past 12 months alone. And that didn't include the random emergencies that popped up. Crystal's daughter needed braces. Mom's water heater died. Crystal got a speeding ticket she couldn't afford. Mom wanted new living room furniture. Crystal's kids needed school supplies and new clothes. I didn't even want to calculate what 7 years of this added up to. Didn't want to know that number because it would probably make me sick. I thought about Liam's cracked windshield I'd been putting off fixing for 8 months because it cost $300. Thought about how I'd skipped getting my own physical last year because the copay seemed too steep. Thought about the basketball camp Liam wanted to go to that cost $400, and I'd told him we couldn't afford it right now. Meanwhile, I was sending $18,000 a year to people who couldn't drive 11 minutes to see their grandson in the hospital. I looked at Liam sleeping peacefully now, the medication helping with the pain. Thought about every basketball game they'd missed because Mom had book club or Crystal had plans. Every birthday where they sent a card with $20 instead of showing up. Every school event where I was the only family member in the audience. Every time I'd made excuses for them. Every time I'd told myself they were busy and life gets complicated and you can't expect people to drop everything. But they'd dropped everything for a $200 dinner. They'd just dropped it for the wrong grandkid. I pulled up my contacts, found Mom's number, found Crystal's number, started a group text with both of them, typed out a message, deleted it, tried again, deleted that too. Finally settled on something simple, something clear, something they couldn't misinterpret or make excuses about. I attached every screenshot, the restaurant videos, the gifts, the toys, the cocktails, the bill, that celebrating with my favorite people caption. Then I typed, "This is what you were doing while my son was in surgery. 11 minutes away. Money was tight, you said. I understand now. I've canceled all auto payments and scheduled transfers to both of you, effective immediately. You're on your own going forward. Don't contact me again." I reread it 3 times. Made sure it said exactly what I wanted it to say. Direct, factual, final. Then I hit send at 11:47 p.m., set my phone on silent, turned it face down on the bedside table, and went back to watching my son sleep. The next morning, I woke up around 6:30 a.m. to sunlight coming through the hospital window and a nurse checking Liam's vitals. "How's he doing?" I asked. "Great. Vitals are perfect. Doctor should be by soon to check his incision, but I think you guys are looking at discharge tomorrow if everything stays stable." After she left, I picked up my phone, turned it over, braced myself. 67 missed calls, 143 text messages, 22 voicemails. I didn't read any of them. Didn't listen to the voicemails. Just went through my contacts and blocked both numbers. Mom and Crystal, gone. Then I blocked Crystal's husband, Mom's sister, several cousins who'd probably been recruited to reach out on their behalf. Anyone I could think of who might try to play mediator or guilt tripped me into backing down. Liam woke up around 7:15, still groggy, still in pain, but more alert than last night. "Hey, buddy, how you feeling?" "It hurts." His voice was small. "I know. Nurse said you can have more pain medicine soon. You want some water?" He nodded. I helped him sip from the cup with the bendy straw, held it steady while he drank. "Dad? Yeah? Will I have a cool scar?" I smiled. Of course, that's what a 9-year-old worries about. "Probably a pretty cool one, yeah." "Awesome." The doctor came by around 8 a.m., checked his incision, said everything looked textbook perfect, said if Liam could keep food down and walk around a bit today, we'd be looking at going home tomorrow morning. Best news I'd gotten in days. Around 8:30, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Nathan, it's Mom. Please don't hang up. I almost did anyway, finger hovering over the end call button. But I wanted to hear this. What do you want? We need to talk about what you did. You can't just cut us off like that. I can, actually. Just did. But the mortgage is due in 3 days. The car payment. I'll lose everything. You should have thought about that before lying to me about not being able to afford to visit your grandson in the hospital. We didn't lie. Her voice went shrill. Money really is tight. Mom, you spent $237 on dinner and toys last night. You were 11 minutes from the hospital. You chose not to come. We were already at the restaurant when you texted. We couldn't just leave in the middle of dinner. You absolutely could have. After dinner, then. You were at your house posting Instagram stories at 10 p.m. Still 11 minutes away. You chose not to come. Silence on the other end. Nathan, please. 7 years you've been helping us. You can't just stop. We've built our whole budget around your support. We're going to lose everything. That's not my problem anymore. But what about Crystal? She's going to get evicted. Think about the kids. Brandon and Olivia and Sophie, they're your nieces and nephew. The kids you were buying expensive gifts for while ignoring mine? Those kids? More silence. This is so cruel, she finally said, voice breaking. After everything we've done for you, after raising you, this is how you repay us? What exactly have you done for me in the past 7 years, Mom? Name one thing. She didn't answer. I'll tell you what you did. You took $18,000 a year from me and couldn't drive 11 miles when my son was in the hospital. That's what you did. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. 11 minutes away, Mom. You were 11 minutes away and chose not to come. That tells me everything I need to know about your priorities. I hung up. She called back immediately. I blocked that number too. Over the next week, they tried everything. New phone numbers, blocked, showed up at my apartment, didn't open the door, sent messages through my few remaining unblocked family members, ignored them all. Crystal tried the hardest. Had different people call me from their phones, showed up at my work twice, even tried contacting my boss to get to me. My boss called me into his office after the second incident. Nathan, I don't know what's going on with your family, but your sister came by again demanding to see you. We had to threaten to call security. I'm so sorry. Family issues. I've cut them off and they're not handling it well. Is everything okay? Do you need to take some time? No, I'm good. Just need them to accept that it's over and leave me alone. He nodded, understanding without needing details. Well, for what it's worth, you're one of my best workers. Whatever you're dealing with, I've got your back. That meant more than he probably knew. My Uncle Bill called 2 weeks after I'd cut them off. I'd forgotten to block his number. Nathan, we need to talk about what's happening with your mother and Crystal. There's nothing to talk about, Uncle Bill. I understand you're upset, but you can't leave your mother and sister in this position. They're family. Where were they when Liam was in the hospital? They explained that situation. They were already committed to dinner plans and they were 11 minutes away. Chose not to come. That's all I need to know. But your mother's going to lose her house. Crystal's getting evicted. You can't let that happen. I didn't let anything happen. They made choices and now they're living with consequences. That's so cold, Nathan. These are people who love you. No, Uncle Bill. These are people who used me. There's a difference. Love shows up. They didn't. What about your sister's kids? You're going to make your nieces and nephew homeless? I'm not making anyone homeless. Crystal is doing that herself by living beyond her means. She's a grown woman with 3 kids. Maybe it's time she figured out how to support them instead of expecting me to do it. This isn't the Nathan I know. Your father would be so disappointed. That one stung a bit, I'll admit. But I pushed through it. You know what Dad would be disappointed about? Me letting people take advantage of me for 7 years. Me working 2 jobs to support people who couldn't drive 11 minutes to see their grandson in the hospital. That's unfair. You want to help them? You help them. Open your wallet, send them money, take on their bills, but don't call me and tell me I'm the bad guy for finally standing up for myself and my son. I hung up, blocked his number. After that, the extended family stopped trying. Guess it's easy to be outraged about other people's problems when you're not expected to actually do anything about them. The relatives who did reach out after that, just a handful, were supportive. My dad's brother, Uncle Jack, called and told me he was proud of me for finally standing up to Mom's nonsense. Said Dad had seen it too, how she played favorites, but never could bring himself to challenge her on it. My cousin Rebecca, who I'd always gotten along with, sent a long text saying she'd watched this pattern for years and was glad I'd finally broken free. Small kindnesses from unexpected places. 3 weeks after cutting them off, Crystal showed up at my apartment. I saw her through the peephole. Hair unwashed, dark circles under her eyes, clothes rumpled like she'd slept in them. She knocked, rang the doorbell, knocked harder. Nathan, I know you're in there. Your car is parked outside. Please open the door. I debated just staying quiet, waiting for her to leave. But something made me open the door. Probably wanted to say my piece, get some closure, make sure she understood this was permanent. I opened the door but stood in the doorway, blocking her from coming in. What do you want, Crystal? To talk, please. Can I come in? No. Say what you need to say from there. She looked awful. Really awful. Eyes red from crying, skin blotchy, that desperate edge to her voice that people get when they're really scared. Nathan, you have to turn the payments back on. Please. I'm getting evicted in 3 days if I don't pay the back rent. The kids and I will have nowhere to go. You've got 3 days. That's plenty of time to figure something out. Figure out what? I can't afford rent without your help. I barely make enough to cover utilities and food. Then get a second job. Move somewhere cheaper. Ask your ex for help. Find a solution like everyone else in the world does. I can't work more hours. I have 3 kids to take care of. You found time for a $200 dinner last week. You found time to buy them expensive toys. Don't tell me about what you can't do. That was one night, one celebration. You're going to destroy our whole lives over one dinner? This isn't about one dinner, Crystal. This is about 7 years. 7 years of taking my money and never showing up for me or Liam. 7 years of mom posting about how your kids are her whole world while barely remembering mine exists. 7 years of treating us like ATMs that occasionally need acknowledgement. Her face crumpled. Started crying. Real tears. Shoulders shaking. The whole performance. Please, Nathan. I'm sorry. I'll visit Liam more. I'll be better. I'll make this right. Just don't let us lose everything. You had 7 years to be better. 7 years to show you cared about anyone except yourself. You chose not to. What about the kids? You're really going to punish Brandon and Olivia and Sophie for my mistakes? They're innocent in all this. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just not funding your lifestyle anymore. You want to provide for your kids? Figure it out like I've been figuring it out as a single parent for 9 years. You have 2 jobs. You make good money. Yeah, I make good money that I've been sending to you instead of using for my own kid. That stops now. But where will we go? What will we do? That's not my problem to solve anymore. She switched tactics, went from crying to angry in a heartbeat. You know what? Fine. Fine. Be that way. But don't come crying to us when you need something. Don't expect mom to be there for you. Don't expect me to help you with Liam. I almost laughed. When have either of you helped with Liam? When have you been there for anything? Name one time in the past 7 years you've shown up when it actually mattered. She opened her mouth, closed it. Couldn't think of anything. That's what I thought. We're family, she screamed. You can't just abandon family. You're right. Family doesn't abandon family, which is exactly why we're done here. I stepped back and closed the door, locked it. She pounded on it for probably 20 minutes, yelling through the door about what a terrible person I was, threatening to call the police, threatening to sue, promising I'd regret this. I turned on the TV to drown out her voice and went to check on Liam, who was playing with his dinosaurs in his room, headphones on, listening to music, completely oblivious to the drama outside. Good. That's exactly how it should be. Eventually, Crystal left. The fallout continued over the next few months, playing out exactly like you'd expect. Mom lost her house. Not immediately, but the foreclosure process started. Took 3 months total. She moved in with her sister Linda 2 states away. Posted passive-aggressive things on social media about how difficult it is when your children abandon you in your time of need. How cruel the younger generation can be. How family values don't mean anything anymore. I didn't correct her story. Didn't engage. Just let her tell whatever version made her feel better. Crystal got evicted right on schedule. Found a smaller apartment about 40 minutes away in a cheaper area. Had to downsize dramatically. Sold most of her furniture, got rid of the big SUV she couldn't afford, and bought a used sedan. Pulled the kids out of their expensive extracurriculars. She posted angry quotes on Instagram about betrayal and snakes in the grass and people who abandon their family in times of need. Never said my name, but everyone knew who she meant. I didn't engage with that either. Just let her rage into the void. The phone calls stopped after about a month. The texts stopped after 6 weeks. The attempts to reach me through other people faded out after 2 months. Either they'd given up, or they'd found other people to manipulate into helping them. Didn't matter which. The silence was beautiful. Liam stopped asking about them after a while. Stopped checking mom's social media for pictures of his cousins. Stopped wondering when grandma would visit, or why she never came to his games. It hurt watching that innocence die, watching him slowly accept that some family members just don't care about you the way you care about them. But honestly, it would have died anyway. This way was cleaner, final, less painful than the slow drip of disappointment year after year. We built new routines to fill the space where their absence used to hurt. Saturday mornings at the park, rain or shine. Just us throwing a football or basketball around, talking about whatever was on his mind. Sunday pancakes where Liam got to pick the mix-ins. One week chocolate chips, next week blueberries, occasionally both if he'd had a really good week. Movie nights where we'd rotate who picked. Basketball practices where I was the only parent who showed up every single time without fail, 30 minutes early with snacks and water, and my phone off because those 2 hours were sacred. Other parents started talking to me. Coffee meetups on Saturday mornings after practice, playdates for Liam with kids whose parents I actually liked, a community that formed naturally when I stopped pouring all my time and energy into people who didn't value it. I opened a 529 college fund for Liam, put the money I'd been spending on Mom and Crystal into it instead. $1,800 a month adds up shockingly fast. In just 6 months, I'd deposited almost $11,000. Money that was actually going toward Liam's future instead of disappearing into the black hole of other people's poor financial decisions. I got my windshield fixed. Cost $320 and took an hour, and I'd been putting it off for 8 months because it seemed frivolous. Driving without that spiderweb of cracks blocking my view felt amazing. Bought myself decent shoes for the first time in 3 years. Got Liam the basketball camp he'd wanted. Took us both to that restaurant downtown. Not Marcello's, but another one that was nearly as nice. And let him order whatever he wanted without checking the prices first. Watched his face light up over the chocolate lava cake we split for dessert. Realized this is what money was supposed to do. Take care of the people who actually matter to you. Build a life worth living instead of just surviving. Mom tried one more time about 4 months after I'd cut her off. Didn't call or text. She knew I'd blocked those numbers. Instead, a letter arrived. Real letter. Handwritten on her fancy stationery with her initials embossed at the top. Sent through actual postal mail. 6 pages long. Rambling, sometimes contradicting herself. Full of reasons and justifications and excuses. How she didn't understand what she'd done wrong. How family was supposed to forgive each other. How my father would be so disappointed in me. How she'd always love me even if she hadn't shown it the way I wanted. That last line really got me. Even if she hadn't shown it the way I wanted. Like my expectations of being treated equally to my sister were somehow unreasonable. I read the whole thing twice. Then I tossed it in the recycling bin. Didn't respond. Didn't need to. Everything that needed saying had been said that night in the hospital when I canceled those payments. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.